This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. All right, so we're going through mini camp right now. I think it's the second day of mandatory mini camps. From what you hear about the quarterback competition is that, it looks like a situation where quarterback play is likely going to be inconsistent. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't expect a huge leap at quarterback play from the last. Like, it should be better as baseline than last year, just because, like, hopefully there's some semblance of a run game and that elevates the entire offense. But as far as like the ceiling of this passing game, it's probably going to be similar to what it's been for a little while here, right? And as we get closer and closer to camp, I think more of the cracks are starting to show in the quarterback competition, right? It always happens this way, by the way, right? Whenever we're deep into the spring, right? The closer we are to March, the closer we are to having a franchise quarterback. But as we get towards the summer, and then once we get into the summer, the cracks start to show, the warts are harder to hide, and we start to see the reality that we have at the quarterback position. And this year doesn't look like it's much different, right? There have been days in minicamp where Shedeur has struggled. There have been days in minicamp where Deshaun Watson has struggled, moments where Shedeur makes good throws, moments where Deshaun is making some good throws, and then certainly some interceptions along the way. I think the Browns' hopes for having a great offense this year are going to be mainly reliant on their ability to run the ball, right? I think that's going to be the big thing for us to watch in the summer. I think the quarterback competition, largely a distraction. I don't really see a big difference worth making a distinction on between Shedeur and Deshaun. I think Deshaun is less likely to turn the ball over, but also less likely to squeeze the most yards possible out the offense. I think Shedeur is more likely to get more production out the offense, but he's also more likely to make big mistakes and turn the ball over and take really bad sacks. And not that Deshaun's not capable of making mistakes or taking really bad sacks. I just think Deshaun's going to be less risky with the football, where Shedeur might be a little bit more willing to go for it, which is part of his DNA as a player that makes him exciting. So I don't really see much of a distinction here, but what I do think is interesting about this quarterback competition is that we are now in the position to hear from Deshaun Watson. Now, this is the first time we've heard publicly from Deshaun Watson in at least what they call it, cross-country mortgage campus, Berea, since like a year, or even longer than a year. My bad. It's 2024 was the last time we talked to the media. So we got to hear from Deshaun Watson. Let's listen into that press conference and react to what Deshaun is saying. Might be some interesting tidbits here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been a while.
So, Deshaun, what do you make of this opportunity that you have to come back out here and win this starting job after everything that's transpired here so far?
It's a blessing. It's great. Anytime you get the opportunity to play in the National Football League is an honor. So I don't take it for granted. I work hard to do what I need to do each and every day to try to put out the best product I can on the field.
Deshaun, where's your mindset just entering the final year of your contract? Obviously, everything that's gone on injury-wise over the past 2 years, really the past couple of years. Just where are you at mentally, your mindset? How are you just approaching it all?
I'm great mentally. I'm in a great space. My home is good. Me and my wife is doing a heck of a job. Just working each and every day mentally to just stay on top of what we need to stay on top of. So I appreciate her. I appreciate the staff and the organization for always, having my back. And I'm in a good space, enjoying myself out here, enjoying my teammates and the new coaching staff. So I'm in a great space.
What was the last year and
All
a
right,
half?
so that's one of the things, right, where he is mentally. This is when we've been talking about Deshaun, especially when we had like significantly more hope for Deshaun back at the beginning of this trade. I think one of the most underestimated aspects of it, as much as the physical was important, as much as as much as like the the mental part of learning the playbook and being in the right offense was important, was where was Deshaun mentally? Because it felt like that was the biggest barrier in 2022, in parts of 2023 to his success. You know, I've brought this story up before. I've had beat reporters on here say this verbatim, but like there'd be times where, you know, they would see Deshaun Watson at practice for like a couple days in a week. He looks good. And then something drops in the news about this case and he struggles that day that news comes out, right? You know, the level of effect that had on him mentally and his ability to play football. I wonder how much of an impact did that actually have on what we ended up seeing with Deshaun. I don't think it can all be written off with just that as a reason, but certainly that does explain some of it, right? And I think it's a part that we don't really talk about as much because it's kind of awkward to talk about. Something that, you know, is going to be important with Deshaun this year as far as like getting the best out of him that he has left as a quarterback is making sure that he's at a place where he's just worried about playing quarterback. Now, to be fair to the counter side of this argument, Deshaun said this before, right? Every year we get Deshaun on the press conference. People ask him about where his head is with all the stuff that he's dealt with. And he says, I'm in a great place. He said it in 2022. He said it in 2023. He said it in 2024, right? So there's a reason why the fourth time he's saying it, even if it might be true this time, it's just not going to hit the same to a lot of people because, again, we've been here before with Deshaun. And I think that's the big thing that for anybody who wants people to be excited about Deshaun, you have to contend with is everything you're saying to try to get us excited about Deshaun Watson. We've literally heard before and have watched that blow up in our face like Acme Dynamite, right? Like we've all at some of us have bought in at different levels, but like a lot of people bought in one year or the other and they got burned one year or the other, right? So it's not good enough to just hear him say it because, again, it's been said before. But, you know, it is something to track that I do think was important to why he wasn't good because I think it was clearly bothering him. Now with the cases out the way, I have more of an inkling to believe that that is true because he doesn't have to deal with that anymore. But it's still something that we've heard before.
Deshaun, the last time we saw you on the field, you were rupturing your Achilles and you got some boos from some fans. How do you, and now there still are some fans that don't necessarily seem to be in your corner. How, as you move forward and maybe become the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, how do you reconcile or grapple with the notion that, you know, maybe you don't have all the support that you would hope that you would have from Cleveland Browns fans?
You know, at the end of the day, I can't control what, you know, people support. You know, I think that's their own opinions. You know, I think that all I can do is just put out the best person I am, showcase who I am as a person, as a player, as a teammate, and what I represent as an individual. So outside of that, you know, I can't focus on, you know, what the outside is saying or what they, you know, I have no control over that other than just putting out the best, you know, product that I can put out as a person and as a player.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting, right? How is he going to be received? If he is the week one starter, right? How is he going to be received week one? Well, not week one, because I don't think the Browns start and they don't play a home game until week 3. So week 3, right, which is even more of a active dynamite kit because, you know, you start week 1 at home, the fans can get you pumped up, you can get pumped up, everybody can be talked into the most optimistic version of the season happening. But like week 3, you could be 0-2 and you could not be playing well and fans could be already fed up, right? Like I wonder if Deshaun plays a significant chunk of this season, which is certainly on the table, how does he get received throughout the year? I don't know how much that's going to affect the team's morale. I imagine it's going to be weird at a minimum, right? Like, it's not a good thing that the fan base might boo the starting quarterback. Like, I don't think you can convince me that it's a good, maybe you can convince me it's a neutral thing, but it seems like default that's a bad thing for team morale is to have the fan base booing the quarterback. But that's a very real possibility if Deshaun Watson's the starter and if they're not looking good on offense to begin with. And I'm going to just point this out. Like, if the offense looks bad at the beginning of the season, it can be possible that it's not necessarily on the quarterback. There's just a lot of moving parts that they're putting together. So, like, the idea of the offense starting slowly is not ridiculous. And, but also parallel to that, the idea that the fans in the stadium will hold Deshaun responsible for the offense starting slowly in the form of booing him, that's not crazy either, right? So, like, it's kind of a tough situation for him. Like, I don't know, if I were one of Deshaun Watson's people, I would kind of want him to come in after the start of the season. Like, you know, let somebody else start the season and then let me come in relief, because that guy has an easier chance to be liked throughout that course of the season than the guy who starts if the start isn't necessarily great. And the reason I think the offense is going to start slow doesn't really have to do with the fact that I don't think highly of this quarterback room. It's because they have 6 new offensive linemen coming in, 5 new starters that have never played with each other. So they're going to have to build chemistry on the fly during the preseason, during training camp. You can only do so much during that time period. They're installing a new offense. They have new wide receivers. They have all of this new stuff that they're trying to put together on the fly, new things that they want to do in the run game, new things that they're trying to, it's a lot of work, right? And you could do a lot of things quickly, but you can't do those things as well as if you had the time to be able to put the time in for them, right? Like, it's just simple. So you're going to have to take more time if you want to do these things well at some point during the season. And that might mean sacrificing how good you can be early on to try to be a better football team later. That's not unreasonable. And when I explain that, I don't think anybody finds that unreasonable. But the side effect of that is the Browns could be 0-2, the offense could look terrible, and then Deshaun Watson is your starting quarterback. And how do we realistically think this fan base, who, look, I'm a Browns fan, I'm from the city of Cleveland, I was born and raised in the city of Cleveland, I love the city of Cleveland. I have the Cleveland statue in the background right there, right? I love this city. But one thing I know about the city of Cleveland is that we boo, okay? We are not a happy city, right? We are a city that will take out our frustrations on the players and boo them in the building, even if they're a 50-win team, right? Like, I've seen it happen before. I know what this city does. We saw them boo Dylan Gabriel for existing last year. There's still people, by the way, who defend that. Like, I don't really care one way or the other, but, like, it happened, right? If we're going to act like it's impossible that Browns fans would boo Deshaun Watson after a slow start to the season when they've been through this before, we aren't connected to the reality of that situation. There's a lot to be frustrated about over the last couple of years with the Cleveland Browns, and he's kind of the face of it. If you're not happy with the Miles trade, you can make the argument that Deshaun Watson's instrumental in putting you in the situation where you have to trade Myles Garrett. If you're not happy with what the Browns' young talent has been since 2020 in the draft classes that Andrew Berry's been able to put together, well, Deshaun Watson and the resources that you gave up to get him are largely responsible for that, right? Like, he's kind of the poster child of all the things that have gone wrong since 2022 with this team. Now that Kevin's not here to take those bullets, you know? So I do think that's going to be interesting. And, like, you know, if this were just something that would happen outside of the stadium, I don't think I would care. But, if Deshaun's getting booed on offense, like the players are going to hear that, and that's going to have an effect on morale, right? Like, I don't advise that fans go to the stadium and boo Deshaun. I don't think that helps the team. But, what I advise and what people are going to end up doing are sometimes two completely different things. And this seems like one of those situations. We're going to continue with this press conference, but first I got to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a fun way to earn cash while you watch your favorite teams. No complex betting rules, just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Here are my picks for this upcoming season, AFC North edition. Jimmy Bernard, I have less than 475. This has to do with volume available in Pittsburgh's offense. Quincy Judkins, I have over 975. Browns improved line. I think the run game's going to be better with it. Chase Brown, under 900 yards. Joe Burrow equals less rushing yards usually for the Bengals offense. Mark Andrews, more than 475 yards. Lamar's going to need a safety blanket. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You could follow me on the app at Quinn_C to see all my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineup to download the app using the link in the description. Get back to the Deshaun Watson press conference.
Do you have any emotions with that? Obviously, like I know a lot of your teammates kind of spoke out about that, how
For sure.
like frustrated they were. I mean, and kind of a real low moment for you. Do you have any strong emotions about that kind of some of that kind of reaction?
I mean, yeah, I had emotions at the time, but you grow out of it.
Yesterday, Pat Monken said this competition is too close to call. Do you feel that way?
I just come show up every day, so I can't control, coaches. He's the head coach. He's the one calling the plays, and he got to decide who he wants out there on the field. So at the end of the day, I got to just show up each and every day and be ready, and wait for my numbers called.
Deshaun, coming off the Achilles, how important is it to you to get a chance to start again in this time?
I mean, it's very important. I think each and every person that walks into the locker room should have that mindset that you want to start in this league. That's why we show up each and every day, is to be able to go out there and be able to perform on Sundays or whatever that day is. So it's definitely the main focus of why I work hard to be able to come back the way I do.
So how does this system fit you versus the last installment of the OCs?
It's a lot of responsibility on the quarterbacks in this system, and I think that that's what I had in Houston when I was with Bill O'Brien. It was pretty much that Tom Brady tree, and everything relied on the quarterback operation. So with Monk, he's given a lot of responsibility to us, and you got to own up to the responsibilities and the situations and what you decide to do on the field. And I think that's something that I'm very comfortable with.
It's been a while.
So that's some insight on what the offense structure is going to look like and how much responsibility is there with the quarterback. Remember last year when there were, protection breakdowns, there was a debate on whether that was the responsibility of the quarterback, which typically in the NFL set the protection. So if there's a breakdown in a protection, you see a defensive lineman run free because an offensive lineman auto slides like at the beginning of a play, that's called a protection breakdown, right? So, Deshaun saying here, this is a situation where he's going to be in charge of that kind of stuff. That's going to be on the quarterback. So it's important to note that when we want to evaluate these guys during the season, because inevitably, sacks are going to become a talking point for both Shedeur and Deshaun Watson. Shedeur Sanders was one of the most sacked quarterbacks per game of any quarterback in the NFL last year. Deshaun Watson, whenever he has played throughout his career, even when Deshaun Watson was good, has always been one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL, despite playing on a varying amount of quality offensive lines, right? Had Laramie Tunsil as a left tackle at one point, still took a ton of sacks. So these guys are going to get sacked this year a significant amount, no matter how much we've upgraded the offensive line, because at some point sacks do become a quarterback responsibility. And when that time comes to evaluate that, we have to remember, this is what the quarterbacks are saying. They're saying that this is a system that gives that power to the quarterback. They have that control over the protections, over what they check in and out of. And that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because I would suspect that the Browns want to run the ball a lot. I'm thinking about 330 times with Quinshawn Judkins, maybe like a significant amount of carries for him. And maybe one of the big things that's going to matter for Todd Monken as far as deciding who wins this quarterback battle is who he trusts more at the line of scrimmage to make the right checks, to make the right calls for the offensive line, to get into the right protections. We would think that that would favor Deshaun Watson, right? That's what Deshaun's supposed to do well as a veteran quarterback, is that kind of stuff. And if you are planning on having that responsibility with the quarterback, but also running the ball a lot, that's a combination that you typically look for. So I can see them wanting to go there, but Deshaun's execution level has to be at a point to where it justifies that, which we'll see. We will certainly see.
The question about you being physically able to play a full season, would you say you're at 100%? And like, were you dealing with anything from the shoulder surgery back when you made those 7 starts in 2024?
I can say that now I'm fully healthy, ready to go. This last year I was able to conquer that. And then I just say I haven't been 100% since that Tennessee game in 23.
Now, look, I'm not trying to bring everybody back to 2023 Shouldergate, but like we do have to remember how weird that was, and it is nice to have a clear answer on like what it was that was going down, because after that game in Tennessee, Deshaun was pretty adamant that he was going to play. The Browns were pretty adamant that Deshaun Watson was going to play up until they had a last-minute MRI done, and then all of a sudden Dorian Thompson-Robinson is playing in that game. I remember having Cam Justice on this show, and she was talking about when she asked Alex Van Pelt about if Deshaun's going to start. Like, she said that Alex Van Pelt laughed at her for asking that question. Said, yeah. Like, that's how much they thought Deshaun was going to play, or how convinced they were that Deshaun was going to play, and how off guard they were taken by, like, what happened there. So would love to know more about what happened during Shouldergate. But Deshaun saying that Tennessee game was the last time he was healthy. Yeah, that makes sense, because after that, I mean, like, he had the whole missed a few weeks, tried to come back versus the Indianapolis Colts, and that was a complete disaster. And then he came back later against the Arizona Cardinals. That went much better. And then got hurt again versus the Baltimore Ravens, where he had a rough first half, but really put it together in the second half of that game. And if you look at it, if we're just looking at quarterback ratings, right, that Tennessee game he had in 2023 was the best he ever looked in a Cleveland Browns uniform. You had like an 82 or 83% completion percentage, 200-something yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. He got pulled early because the game was an ass whooping. Him and Kevin Stefanski were hip bumping each other. They were so happy with each other during that game. That was the high point of this whole experience as far as like raw on the field statistical play in the Deshaun Watson era. It never got better than that game against Tennessee. Now, it is worth noting, Deshaun Watson struggled when he was healthy in 2022 and struggled in Pittsburgh the week before he played Tennessee. So it's not to say that like him being healthy is going to be this magic bean that's going to fix everything that's been wrong with his quarterback play. But it is worth noting that the last time he was healthy was undeniably the best he ever looked in a Cleveland Browns uniform. And we don't know if he doesn't get hurt. And what I believe, like, I know everybody goes to this running play where he got hurt, but I believe Deshaun himself said it happened after a passing play on a late hit where he got hit on like a play action boot or something, and the defensive tackle landed on him or something like that. But if that play never happens, does the trajectory of Deshaun Watson keep going up, or does he continue to be inconsistent like he was before then? We'll never know the answer to that question. And how Deshaun Watson looks this year is not going to provide a sufficient answer to that question. It's always going to be a mystery. But at least, again, with things with Deshaun Watson, he said this before, and we've seen what's happened, right? He said he was healthy before 2024. He said he was healthy. He said he was healthy when he came back in 2023, right? So we've been here before with Deshaun Watson. I think there's more reason to believe that he's actually healthy because of the time that he's been out. But we'll see how he holds up and what difference him being healthy makes. Obviously, the Browns are desperate for some kind of answer at quarterback. So they're not going to say no if one emerges. But yeah, that's going to be interesting to see, just how much of a difference him being healthy makes. Because I would make the argument that there's not been one reason why Deshaun Watson has been underwhelming in Cleveland. There's been 28 reasons why he's been underwhelming. And trying to simplify it down to one reason and saying that that's going to fix everything is missing the larger point of why he struggled, which is a lot has not been going well for him since he's joined the Cleveland Browns roster in a lot of different ways. Some reversible, some very much not, or not have not been proven to be reversible at least. But we'll see what happens. That's my thoughts on Deshaun Watson's return press conference. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.